if you continue to get stronger and you apply more force, you're putting the muscle more and more in an uncomfortable state where it has to say, shit, this is heavy again. I don't like this. I need to adapt in order to be able to sustain this performance.
What's up, guys? Today we talk with Derik Oslan, 212 Pro, along with his training partner, Scott Stevenson. Now, this isn't your basic, like, how did you fall in love with bodybuilding and start training type podcast. We get into the nuts and bolts of how Derik has gained some incredible mass, especially over the past several years. And we talk about how those strategies have evolved, even leading into this contest season. This is the kind of conversation that I think you guys can learn a lot from and possibly apply to your own training programs. If you guys enjoy the show, then do us a favor, hit the like button, leave us comments. All that stuff helps to boost us in the algorithm. And if you haven't subscribed, we'd love to have you along. We have several podcasts coming out each week. Check out our sponsor, True Nutrition. Check out our Patreon, everything else. Hope your training is going well, guys. Let's get to Derik and Scott. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Think Big Bodybuilding Media. I'm Scott Mcnally, and today it's my great pleasure to have with us, I'm just going to say, WEAPONX. I wanted to say that, WEAPONX.
Yes.
Because it sounds so badass. Derik Oslan, IFBB Pro, and we've got Scott Stevenson here too. So we're going to talk a bunch about training. And what's kind of cool too is since Scott has been training with, I'm just going to refer to you as WEAPONX from now on.
Sure, that's fair.
the weapon.
That's fair.
There are other weapons we can get to.
Yeah. I gotta show you guys the mask later.
Okay, mask.
Yeah. We'll get into it. Okay. Don't worry.
Okay.
It's part of the training. It's part of the training mystique.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So to start us out, we'll just break into some.
Talk
training.
over the motorcycle.
We'll just break into some training. Now, first of all, you guys are both in Tampa. Where are you training at? Because I know you have your own gym, right, Derik?
Yeah, so that's where we've been training at FAM Tampa. FAM stands for Flex Appeal Miami, Tampa location. The reason why we named it that instead of Flex Appeal Tampa is the acronym would have been FAT. So we wanted to kind of avoid that. So we were like, you know what, FAM, we got it. We're just gonna roll with it.
Nice. So that means you can basically train. Now, what are you doing there? Are you personal training people as well through the day, or are you just hanging out managing the gym, or what do you have going on? I'm just trying to picture like how your day comes together.
So me and my fiance Anastasia, we both own and run the gym, and we both also coach and train clients as well. So I have my own client schedule that I adhere to. She has her own client schedule, and we try to overlap it in a way that, like, when she has a break, she can come home and kind of hang out and rest or whatever. And then when I have a break or when I'm done for the day. So, like, you know, we're kind of a little bit opposite, but we try to organize it in that fashion.
Right on. So
if she doesn't have any morning clients, I'll open the gym so that way she can sleep in. Because she typically opens the gym because she's the one that has 5 a.m. clients. My clients aren't that ambitious. So
3:30 naturally.
You what?
3:30
time is like 3:30.
Yeah.
Every day. Yeah. Every day. And she used to turn all the lights on and like just start making all kinds of noise. And I'm like, dude, I'm in prep too. I'm like, God. 4 weeks out. Shut everything off.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much how it works.
What time of the day do you usually train at?
Usually midday, so like noon.
Okay.
Noon, 12:30, between 11:30 and 12:30 is usually our start time, and that works well for me because I get like 2 to 3 meals in by that time, and then I'm ready to go.
That's what I was going to ask you, because I've met some guys that are like, I only need 1 meal, and then other people, it's like they want to have 4 or 5. I feel like that's a good spot for me. If I can have 2 or 3 meals in, plus I get it more fluid in, I feel like I'm going to be stronger.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I used to do the afternoon training. I've done the 1 meal thing before. The only time I only get 1 meal in is if I wake up late, but typically 2 to 3 meals. And then I'm off to the races. I'm a lot stronger. My performance is better that way.
All right. Now, Scott, are you guys training together for every workout, or how does that work?
Yeah, we have been. I mean, I
Since
was out of
February?
town this last week. Yeah. How long? I mean, I'm trying to think. It was basically like 14 weeks, something like that, close to because we did almost the mountain dog training 2 times 8 week stints. So
yeah, you're right.
You're right. Yep. Through, so it's pretty close. Yeah. And this last week, I've been trying to recover with all the injuries that I self-accumulated that I brought on myself because of having too much fun training with, a guy like 1/3 my age. Because I'm like 105 now.
Stop it! In bodybuilding years.
Yeah, but it was pretty much every day. It was just too much fun. Yeah, we had a blast.
That's cool.
Oh,
so how long have you been mountain dog training for?
For that amount of time.
Oh, okay.
So, but before that, I was following more. So I did my own training programming for the last 2 to 3 years prior, and I was following more of the Jordan Peters approach. So I'm a big fan of Jordan, and I actually, funny enough, I met Scott and Jordan at the same time at the Arnold in 2017 because that was when John Meadows started Granite, and he had invited me out to help him promote the company and get, he was just getting things started. So we had a little table at the Powerhouse in Columbus, and I saw him with a rainbow mohawk and and Jordan, who was full off season. I'm pretty sure he was over 300 pounds at that point. And I'd never seen a human being at my height that big. I was like, who the hell is this guy? So so John introduced me to Scott, introduced me to him, and Jordan has been both of them, Scott and Jordan, have both been friends and mentors to me pretty much since then. But I studied Jordan extensively and how he programmed. I'm a member on his site, and I learned a lot from him. I've spoken to him at length via Instagram.
Yeah. So
that was pretty much the basis. His training style was the basis of my programming up until John. I'm assuming you want to know why I brought John in. At that point.
I'll get to that. I'll get to that because I got some background here. I've got some research.
All right, let's follow the script. The script.
I got some research here. So 2018, you were 196 on stage at Tampa.
Wow, you're good.
2019, I know more than you. No, I know more about you than you. No, and then 2019. So that was 196 to 212 the following year. That's an incredible. No, I'm wrong.
Almost.
No.
Almost. So in 2018, I was around 198 to 200.
Okay.
Roughly. In 2019, I did 2 shows, the Chicago Pro and the Tampa. Chicago, I was actually 195.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I was 195, and then we tried a fuller look for the Tampa Pro, and I was 199.
Okay, well, I blew it then. I blew it because
I thought I was just a year off.
So, and then where are you at now? And
then in 2020. The lowest I weighed was 210.
Okay, that's where the jump was. I got you.
Yeah, so 2019 to 2020 was the jump.
Okay. So how did that happen? It sounds like that's from the training style that you adapted going into progressive overload. That's my guess.
For one, I lowered the volume that I was doing. So instead of doing 3 to 4 working sets, I only did 2.
Okay.
And I just had a hyper focus on being strong as shit. I basically had made up my mind that I was going to be the strongest 212 competitor, period. That was my sole motivation going into every single session. And I would go on either on Jordan's site or on Instagram, and I would find all of the guys that I knew had a reputation for being freakishly strong, like Jordan, like Dusty Hanshaw, like Nick Walker, these guys. I would watch what they would do in their sessions, and I would try to match or beat it. So that's literally what I did for a year. What was that? A year and a half, and that's how I got up to. That's how I completely erased that weight gap.
That's crazy.
Really.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it didn't require a lot of food either. What was that?
I was asking Scott, does that sound like something we talked about before here on when we do the Muscle Minds podcast, that progressive overload thing that, seems to work sometimes if you really apply it.
Yeah, I think that's incredible. How did you adapt to that? Because I think one of the big things is if you were doing 4 sets per exercise, you're doing like whatever, 16, even sometimes some guys are doing 20 or more sets per workout. How did you adapt to cutting that back?
Really, really well, actually. Yeah. My recovery was so much better. I was able to, you know how you have that one set that on like your favorite movement and you get super amped up for it and you're like, I'm gonna crush this shit. I was able to kind of harness that and be able to do it throughout the entirety of the session. So like every single set that I went into, unless there's, a more technical type of movement, like a barbell RDL, for example, I can't get super amped up about. I really have to be focused and locked in on my technique in order to get it right. But like if I'm doing a deadlift off the floor and I'm just gonna rip it, then I can be able to kind of just get myself into that tune, into that zone. And I was able to do that throughout the entire session, as opposed to, doing 3 or 4 working sets. You really can only do that one time. And then that's really it. So what ended up happening was, and that's just obviously one component of it, but what ended up happening is my performance skyrocketed. My strength went like absolutely through the roof. Just as an example, I think when I started that approach and started that off season after the 2019 season was done, just pick a random exercise that sticks out of my head. Incline hammer strength for chest press. I think my top set was 4 plates aside, 4 1/4 for like 6 to 8 reps. By the end of that prep, I could do 8 plates aside for 3.
That's incredible. You're kidding, man. That's crazy.
From off season to the end of that contest prep, I was able to do actually, and that PR happened. That 8 plate aside PR happened 5 days out from the Tampa Pro. I shouldn't have done that, but it was really stupid. But the stars were just aligned perfectly that one particular day. I got under the weight and I felt it go up, and I was like, "Ooh, this is gonna move. I have to do it." Yeah, and I just did it.
No kidding. We got a question here. I want to throw this in. Maybe Scott has something for us on this. Jan, because we're talking about progressive overload. So why is it then that so many gurus keep telling us volume is the prime driver of hypertrophy? And he adds, I've made my best gains when I followed a low volume progressive overload style.
Well, first of all, I want to point out that this being my first time on the podcast, I think it was really cool how you were able to just slide that comment
Isn't
over
that
all
so
nice
professional?
And in the middle of the screen. This is sweet. I love this. Because normally when I listen to the podcast, I listen to it in my car on Apple. I very rarely watch the videos. So I didn't even know this could happen. This is really cool.
Well, welcome to the professional world of internet podcasting.
Welcome to Scott.
Do you? Scott, you want to? I have my own answer to this. Do you want to give your take on this really quick?
I could talk for hours on that topic, to be honest.
Oh, listen, we know.
Right? That's what that paid me the big bucks. Well, because if you look across the research literature, there is a relationship between volume and the extent to which the muscle grows, which we just call hypertrophy. It could be hyperplasia as well. It's sort of we get just muscle size gains, but so that is there, and it's a natural human tendency to want to make things sort of as simple as possible to compartmentalize and put things into a black and white scenario. So we say there's one driver of muscle growth, and that's that. And there's another reason that pops to mind is doing studies, and this is actually demonstrated by the research that has lent some evidence to the idea that people do leave lots of reps in the tank. The reps in reserve that people estimate they have is much higher than, or much lower than the actual reps in reserve when they're pushed to a true failure point. Is that getting people to train as hard as what you're talking about training is going to be very difficult, especially with beginners. Maybe not even safe necessarily.
Right.
So and progressive overload is going to like, and you've also got this ceiling effect with gains with beginners where they're going to just be making gains almost every time they do an exercise. So you don't have to push the progressive overload. So that's a tough thing to test. And then also there's the notion that we talked about this before on the Muscle Minds, Scott, is that some people do better with a higher volume, maybe higher frequency, or a lower versus a lower volume, lower frequency approach. So there's tons of variability there that is going on literally in this particular study that I've mentioned several times, where the initial finding was that frequency comparing 2 or 3 or 5 times a week made no difference in muscle growth. Whereas when they looked at the individual responses, and this was a study where they trained one leg one way and another leg the other way, they found some people did better. Yeah, they did. Some people did better with the lower frequency and lower volume in this case versus the upper and higher volume, higher frequency, higher volume. And some people, the opposite was true. And there were people who grew well and people who didn't grow well. So there's this very heterogeneous response spectrum, or literally it's a landscape of responses in terms of what would optimize growth in terms of frequency and volume of training. So it's scattered all over the place. And you only see that when you look at the individual responses in a study that was done like that, when they took those individual data points and looked at the pattern, left versus right leg in this case, high versus low volume, high versus low frequency. But generally you see that volume, when it's greater, on average, for people across studies, is something that is a determinant of growth. So I'll stop with this. So who is to say that progressive overload does not contribute to muscle growth? It's built into every single study. You read the method sections, that's what they do every single time. They don't just say, okay, we're going to go with 90% of your 10 rep max or 12 rep max and do 10 sets, and just so you're at 120 pounds, we're going to stick with 120 for the next 3 months. They progressively overload them and test them repeatedly. So testing to determine whether progressive overload would be the quote unquote driver of muscle growth, it's just a given.
Yeah.
I mean, no one even like really questions that. So it's like, oh, well, we can uniquely say that volume is the driver of muscle growth or muscle hypertrophy because this research has kind of clearly delineated that. But it's obvious that progressive overload is important because it's done in every study. It's kind of like, if you wanted, like the question that I addressed in the last couple of podcasts on Muscle Minds was, to what extent eating with a large amount of excess calories can produce muscle growth. In those 2 studies that I talked about, one which is the foundational study kind of for the serial gains, that's a very hard thing to do. So that shows that that's an important driver of muscle growth. But in saying that that's the only driver and that other things don't matter is sort of as silly as saying, like, well, what if we tested if someone didn't eat anything? Like, we just starve them. Like, of course your subjects have to eat. They can't starve. Of course you're going to progressive overload over the course of the training study. That's how you do it. Like, of course they eat. That's how it goes if you want to stay alive during the course of the 12-week study. Yeah. So that testing whether progressive overload or muscle or volume of training is more important is a difficult phenomenon, and it's going to differ depending on the person. We know that from some of the research that looked at those individual responses. So the gurus say that because it's an important driver, and I think it's a nice sort of catchphrase, clickbaitish way to kind of say that changing your volume, increasing your volume over time is a one way to ensure that your growth is may increase. That's one thing you could possibly do, and there's programming that's sort of based on that notion. So when you call it the driver, that makes you think, well, that's in the driver's seat and that's all that matters. But it's not. So those are half a dozen reasons why it's said that way, I think.
I'm gonna give my take on that really quick. My belief. Have you read Mcnally? Have you read Brad Schoenfeld's book, The Science and Development of Muscular Hypertrophy?
No, I have not.
Okay. Well, he talks about obviously the 3 mechanisms of hypertrophy, the 2 different types: myofibular, sarcoplasmic, blah blah blah. So mechanical tension, the force applied to a cross-sectional surface area of muscle. In my opinion, and I think in a lot of people's opinion, especially professional bodybuilders, people who look the way that people who are probably listening to this podcast would like to look or strive to look like. That is the main driver of hypertrophy. So that is progressive overload. The load that you are able to move for sets and reps increasing over time, because the load is what's providing the force on the muscle, is what's going to provide that novel stimulus. Now, gurus will say volume, because volume is an easy way to provide a novel stimulus. Just add more sets. More is better. But if you really want to truly change your program, or your change from session to session and efficiently provide a novel stimulus, just change the weight that you move. Your body doesn't know the difference between the extra set and the extra load. If you continue to get stronger and you apply more force, you're putting the muscle more and more in an uncomfortable state where it has to say, shit, this is heavy again. I don't like this. I need to adapt in order to be able to sustain this performance. And it adapts to that increasing load by getting bigger and strong, and bigger, more dense, more fibers, etc. Whereas with volume, if you're increasing the volume, and I'm just speaking kind of theoretically at this point, but when you're increasing volume, more than likely your endurance is going to go up. Because if volume was the main driver of hypertrophy, then why isn't everyone doing six to 8 sets of every single movement that they do in the gym? Right? That would be a logical solution. Let's not worry about the load at all. Let's just do the same weight. Let's just add 3 more sets to it. So instead of doing 3 sets, I'm going to do 6 or 7, and I'm going to grow. So if you do 40-pound bicep curls for 3 sets, and you add 3 more sets of 30-pound bicep curls, are you going to get bigger arms?
I think Scotty's asking you, I think.
Oh, he's asking me.
Yeah,
I thought it was a rhetorical bigger arms.
No. This is an interactive discussion. I need you to participate, McNally. Damn it.
So if
doubling that volume on that one exercise is not going to give you bigger biceps. Now, if you go from 40-pound bicep curls to 60-pound bicep curls over time, chances are your arms grew quite a bit.
Yeah.
And that's been my thought process on it. Mechanical tension, main driver.
Okay. So in that case, what led you? So you obviously you found something that worked really well, and that's where I'll come back to the mountain dog training. So what made you decide to shift directions then for this next phase?
So a couple things. One, I realized very quickly that the things I was able to do in the gym, from a moving weight standpoint, obviously with good rep execution, was I don't want to sound like I'm like boosting, like talking myself up or stroking my ego, but I was doing pretty incredible things. And I knew I was also getting to a point, or I maybe would get to a point pretty soon, that what I was doing from a weight standpoint may exceed my skeletal structure and connective tissues ability to actually handle it.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? So risk management is basically what I was thinking. On top of the fact that I'm like, okay, I don't know, my strength is still going up. I don't know how much more this is going to happen. And I'm looking at my physique. So I'm looking at my, my 2020 season physique and my Olympia physique. And I'm like, okay, I need to be more dense. What is the next step that I need to take? Do I continue on the road that I'm at and just try to get more plates on everything, which I'm already maxing out and having to put custom made gym pin extenders on everything? Or do I try to find another way? So I came up with a solution after doing a bunch of reading and research and talking to people and getting opinions. Was the conclusion that I came to is volume was probably the next step.
Okay.
So to kind of reiterating the question that was asked, volume was the step that the next logical step for me in my head. Once I had come to the conclusion that maybe I'm getting close to my max out in strength output. So I wanted to be able to, I didn't trust myself to program higher volume effectively because it's for me. And I know how I am. I only know 2 gears. 0, 100. That's it. So if I had done it myself, I would have been like, all right, well, I'm doing two working sets per movement. Sometimes just one balls out set. I'm just going to do 3 to 4 working sets for everything now and just go. And I would have been burnt out before I even hit a calorie deficit. So that's where John came in. And I already had a rapport with him because I did mountain dog training when I won my pro card in 2016. So, and then, obviously helping him with Grant and all of that, we already had a connection. So it was really easy for me to reach out to him and say, hey, what do you think? Can you help me? And then he wrote the program, and then I saw it through to the entirety of the prep.
Right on.
With Dr. Scott.
And what do you think? What have you thought about this phase compared to your training previous? What would you say you've gotten out of this? What's been the challenge? Let me ask you that. What's been the challenge with this?
The recovery from the higher volume. It was really good when I had enough food. And then once the food started getting low, you can ask Scott as well. I would get like halfway through the session, and then I would just bottom out, just completely tank. And I was worthless and just running on fumes and willpower. And it took him and our other training partner, Jared, to kind of like really like pull the leash on me and just drag me through the rest of the session. Whereas with the lower volume, I was able to sustain a really high performance pretty much from beginning to end of the session, even when I was in a severe deficit and close to the show. My endurance definitely, again, when I had enough food, my endurance definitely went up in terms of my ability to sustain a higher performance with those extra sets. Now, the negative, because I've actually given this a lot of thought. I felt like I definitely felt like I overtrained the last month and a half. And I think because I was so focused on trying to maintain my performance and hit all of these sets every single time, I felt like my muscle didn't have, I don't know what the proper term is. I felt like I had more volume, fullness, roundness to my muscle last year than towards the end of this year. And I've never gone hypo during cardio, so more times than I did during this prep. Scott can tell you, he would be talking to me on the stairs and just coming up with different conversation topics just to keep my attention off the Stairmaster and keep me awake, because I would nod out on the Stairmaster. And like a couple of times I almost fell off of it because I would and that was a problem I really didn't have last year.
Okay.
So I definitely think I was overtrained.
I'll add this too, is that John was kind of just helping out just very, very graciously with the training. So he sent, I think it was kind of a modified version of one of his training plans that was set up just for someone who could use during the off season. He wasn't checking in with Derik on a regular basis. He was following along, of course, on Instagram, that sort of thing. But those modifications that would have and could have prevented some of the things Derik just talked about in the last 4-6 weeks are things I talked to John on the phone with, but he wasn't, formally training Derik. So we just had the plan, and we literally followed the same 8-week cycle that we did when he was full blown off season with plenty of food, and to repeat it we changed a little bit near the end, but in retrospect, it sounds like we could have changed it earlier. And I'm sure John, with that kind of feedback, would have adjusted things. So it's not a failing of mountain dog training in any way, shape, or form.
Not at all.
If John had been there, like, these adjustments would have been made. And just so folks know, because I don't know how many times this has happened. We're just training partners. Like, I was just there because I wanted to train with him, and Derik has a coach in a nutrition coach in Will, and John was running the training with, and John was running the training, and I'm there just to be the fellow meathead, like, trying to pick heavy shit up, and have fun. So it wasn't my role to intercede in any of that, except that I did, I don't know if it was to call John. I ended up talking to John on the phone. We do that every once in a while, just catch up. And I asked about, training and adjusting things in the last 3 or 4 weeks. But so it wasn't as if I was guiding the training, because Derik guides his own training, and we had John sort of layer in there. So Derik's the training guy, Will is the diet guy, and John was giving the training structure. And I'm just the meathead who's helping, screaming at him, and he's screaming at me, and we're just having fun. So that was why did Scott not change things? Because this was not like we're just rolling together. Yeah. So my role there was just as a fellow bodybuilder. I mean, I tell people, because we mentioned before we started recording, I think I've got a thing going on with my leg, which could have probably been averted if I trained differently. I've had this issue on and off, but I just wanted to train. I just this was my opportunity. The way I explain this is my opportunity to train with a world-class, maximally motivated athlete who's a hell of a guy and a friend of mine. So I just like, why would I, pass that up? Like I'm a bodybuilding fan and a bodybuilder first and foremost.
You were a bodybuilding nerd, an OG bodybuilding nerd. So yeah, how could you not? I'd be the same way. I'd be limping right along with you right now.
Yes.
That's why my nickname is El Gimpo, or El Limpo. It's because I've got a bad leg, but Derik was there. I bucked up and just kind of figured out a way to make it work. And I think I probably was able to do 95% of the things. Every once in a while there was just an exercise that wasn't happening. But otherwise, we had fun. So that was why, so we live and learn from this kind of stuff. So next time, like if we're in this situation again, I might say, I'm like, hey, let's pull back a little bit. Yeah. And then I think I would be basically telling Derik what he already knows, not anything new. And then, you get a better outcome the next
That was another role that Scott played as well, was being my brake pedal. I don't need a gas pedal. I'm very good at that. All by myself, I will stay in 7th gear the entire time, even when I'm not supposed to. Scott is the one that was supposed to be keeping me from doing dumb shit towards the end of prep. Every so often, most of the time he'd stop me. A few times he'd be like, "Nah, just do it." Screw the RPE scale. We don't care. Yeah. Just go.
Yeah, I mean, my philosophy, and we did do this near the end, but my philosophy is maintain the quality of the effort. So if you got to go from 5 to even 1 set, that would be an extreme drop in volume. But if you can keep the loads you're using at the beginning all the way through, even if it's just 1 set, you're going to keep the muscle pretty damn well. Now your energy expenditure might suffer. You have to adjust some other things, but as long as you can do that. So I'm all for maintaining and just pushing the pedal to the metal in the gym all the way through. So it was just hard for me not to project my desires onto Derik and say, fucking do it, man, go for it. But at the end there was a couple times because I wasn't dieting. I'm just like, going along, and I felt guilty.
I was eating 200 grams of carbs from cereal 5 times a day. Bastard.
Yeah. I'm nailing all this cereal, and I was continuing on some of the lifts to go up, and there was stuff where like I felt I was happy to have the fun that I was having, but I wasn't eating cereal in front of Derik, but I was lifting heavy shit in front of Derik that he wanted to do, and he's like, I want to play. He must have said that 10 or 12 times in the last month, because he's like, man, he wanted to get on there and do that, but that was not how John had suggested we bring things back. So I was I guess probably a C+ brake puddle, maybe something like that.
No, I'll give you a B. I'll give you a B-. I'll give you a B-.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So.
All right. We have a few questions here, but before we get to that, I have one more. So
sure.
Moving forward, what's the game plan from here? You had just competed, and now you're talking about kind of like the things you've learned through this prep. Are you still dieting? Is there going to be another show this season? Are you wrapping it up? What are we thinking?
I am full steam ahead. My only goal is to get back to the Olympia, period, the end. Nice. So whether that's on points or whether that is on or if I'm able to pull out a win, obviously, I'm doing whatever the hell it takes. So I haven't even said this on social media. So this will be the big reveal.
I'll drop a clip in here, like a little like music, some type of dramatic sound effect.
Can you throw that horn that you use with Skip? I want the horn.
Hold on a second. I can actually do that on the fly right now. Where is the horn? DJ air horn. Here it is. we're going to hear now from WEAPONX his plans for 2021.
Yes, I love it. That was awesome. All right, so
rally.
that was great. So Chicago Pro is the next move.
Nice.
That is a little less than 9 weeks out. So okay, so basically, I did the Indy. I got 9th. Had a hell of a turnaround in 1 week. Dropped 6 pounds, 6.5, to go into New York. Ended up in the first call out, got 4th. So a little bit of redemption there. And so after that, I took, I don't want to say I took a week off because I technically didn't. I still trained. I lowered the volume. I'm kind of back into the whole, I guess, JP approach, but I'm taking a lot of the things that I learned from the Mountain Dog program and incorporating it into like the intensity techniques, managing RPE, which are 2 important things that I really, really learned how to do better. So those type of things I'm incorporating into what I was already doing beforehand.
Yeah.
And then so I got my reverse diet and I was on top of that, but like, maybe like a meal a day or something like that. Like, yeah, pretty much 1 meal a day. Like if I wanted to have something, like I would just get it. Like if I wanted pasta, I'd just go have it, or, whatever the case may be. So this week, it was glorious. Let me tell you. I felt so good last week. It was so good to feel a pump again during my training. Yeah. I hadn't felt a pump in the last literally 2 months of prep. Ugh. So it was pretty cool. But anyway, so I'm back on the diet 100% this week. I actually dropped. I was don't get mad at me. I was 232 Sunday morning.
Woo.
And it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much. I grow super. Like if I just cut the reins off and just let my body do its thing, I could be 250 in the next couple months easily.
Yeah. Well, people should understand too. Like listeners should understand. This is what a 212 competitor is. It's not. You're not walking around at 212.
Correct. So I'm already back down to 222 from Sunday to today. So, and that's just from cutting all the crap out. So now we're kind of reversing a little bit for a few weeks. I think he might ramp up the clean calories at least one more time, and then we're really gonna hit it hard. Unless I continue to respond like this, because I'm eating a good amount of food, all things considered, and to have my weight dropping the way it is a really cool thing. So Chicago. So come back to your question, Chicago. If I don't win there, 2 weeks later is the Tampa Pro.
Yes. And
then if I, again, don't manage to win there, then the last show of the season would be the Texas Pro. Okay. So in my head,
1 week after that.
Yeah. So in my head, I am mentally prepared. I'm mentally prepared to do all 3 if I have to in order to qualify for the Olympia. Like, if it means I have to get in on points, I'm going to do that. If I end up having enough points, if it's a point thing and I end up having enough points after Tampa, for instance, then cool. I'd probably do Tampa Pro anyway, just because it's literally right down the street. Yeah. Like it's 12 minutes from my house. So
you could walk there. You could literally walk to the Tampa Pro and compete. I don't know if I recommend it. But
I was going to say I could. I would. Scott, however, you might want to
take my skateboard. Yeah.
You got your skateboard. Yeah.
You take your skateboard. So yeah, that's the plan. And as far as the training, I'm kind of reverting back to my performance, which is I was able to maintain a higher performance. And I just think that the lower volume approach just worked better. It just worked a little bit better for me. I felt like I responded a little bit differently. So I'm going to kind of lean back towards that.
Right on. Well, I look forward to seeing what happens. I mean, sounds like it'll be it could be a really fun few weeks coming up here between all the shows that you could potentially be in. Yeah. I'm sure, all of our viewers and stuff, they've been following along with what you're doing. So if you guys are there, do me a favor, scream out WEAPONX. Don't even call him Derik. Just say WEAPONX, because that's my
and get an air horn for when you say it.
Yes, exactly.
I need to hear a lot of air horns.
So we do have some
What
couple
would they do if you
questions.
did an air horn, I wonder. Like, would they throw you out with an air horn at one of these shows?
They had one at New York Pro. Somebody had an air horn.
I heard
you heard that? Yeah.
I heard it on the video. I didn't hear it when I was there, though.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, It was. I think it was for. Was it for Nick Walker or?
I can't remember.
I just
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I was there with it,
I guess they wouldn't care. If it's New York, like they're gonna do whatever they want to, but otherwise, that would be loud as hell inside the venue, I would think.
All right, so we got a couple listener questions here. 2 for WEAPONX and 1 for Serial. We have a one for Professor
Serial Gains Nation.
Serial Gains, yes.
Oh yes,
baby.
All right, so this is from Brandon DeCruz, by the way. What did you learn so far from training with Dr. Scott? Would love to hear about what new info and strategies he's been able to apply to your training, nutrition, and approach to prep as a result of being around Scott on a daily basis. So he's not even, we already covered the not coaching part, but just the immersion of being around Scott.
So from a direct application approach in terms of the training, with the addition of all the intensity techniques that we utilize, one big thing that I learned from Scott is how it's really a skill set of when you get to that intensity technique. So if we're talking about like an iso hold or partials or whatever, how to extend that set longer than you really think you can. And to give a simple answer, it kind of involves going into almost a meditative state. It's a switch that I just kind of had to flip on and off. So like when I'm doing the actual full range of motion reps, I'm completely amped up, turned all the way up. I'm going for broke. And then we get to the partials or the hold. It almost, I don't want to say it looks like I'm falling asleep or anything like that, but I'll literally just close my eyes. My entire facial expression will change and I'm just calm. And I almost go into this Zen state where like I could probably do these partials or that hold I feel like I could do it forever. Whereas if I'm like gritting and making all kinds of noise, I found that I couldn't hold that intensity technique as long.
Okay.
So flipping that switch and just being a little bit calmer during that part of the set made me more efficient at executing those intensity techniques. And then I'm very animated and very aggressive when it comes to my sets, more than pretty much anybody that trains at my gym. So it was very refreshing to have someone there who is just as crazy as I am, and would yell obscenities and the like at inanimate round objects with the number 45 on them.
Yeah,
baby, that's what it's about.
So, come on, motherfucker, who's your daddy? If I had $1 for every time I heard that. Or I'd look at the weight and be like, gravity's my bitch. Like, and in fact, the first day that we trained together was legs, and he walked in and he goes, Derik, you know I'm gonna dominate your ass today, right? And I was like, not if I make you my bitch first. That's pretty much how we started.
That's how we set the tone, right?
That was the first words that we exchanged at the beginning of the training session, and that pretty much was the mood for every single session that we did. So having someone just that could match my intensity level was extremely, extremely refreshing. I didn't have to be the one that brought it all the way up like that. I kind of had help. So that was really cool. He has great jokes.
Yeah, they're awesome. Like we're talking like Vegas is calling me on a daily basis. Bring your act out. You'll make millions in nobody's world.
All right. Now, I'm not sure what this one means, but I think you guys do. Are cashews anabolic? And if you could, how would you include them in your prep? What's up with this?
All right. All right. So I did a post not too long ago. It's a pretty long one, Mcnally. So you'll have to hunker down to read it. But basically, I was talking about managing your mental and emotional health during a prep, and how during this prep I had one specific key moment that really kind of got the best of me. I was doing a lot of cardio. I was eating very little food. I felt like absolute dog shit all the time. I was going hypo pretty frequently during both of my daily cardio sessions, and there was this period of time where I was just watching the scale slowly go up and further and further away from that 212 mark, and it just led to a lot of frustration on my part, and I let my emotions get the better of me, which led to me making a few very key mistakes. One was in response to one of those hypo episodes, because it happened and it carried over into my car ride home. And I was like, I'm not going to make it home. I need to do something. And like my hunger was through the roof. I was agitated. Like there was a lot of things happening at the same time. And then next thing I knew, I went to CVS to go get like a diet beverage, like a diet soda or something, just to like give me something to like make me feel better. And the next thing I knew, I really love cashews, and I can't really have them in the house when I'm in prep because I will eat a whole jar of them. And that's exactly what I ended up doing. I bought a jar of cashews, and I was like, I'll just take 1 or 2 handfuls. It'll, there's some carbs in there, and it's salty and crunchy, and it'll just make me feel good because I'm really pissed off right now at feeling like shit and watching my weight not cooperate. Yeah. And then next thing I knew, the whole jar was gone. So I talked about that in the post. Plus, I was like, my weight's not going down. You know what? I'm just gonna cut all my food. I didn't even tell. Will found out eventually, but I didn't tell him that I did this. I had cut all my food in half. I was eating like 3 ounces of tilapia and like 5 asparagus stalks every meal for like days. Oh my God. Trying to I was barely drinking water. Like I was drinking like 3/4 of a gallon of water on a good day. Yeah. And I was sweating out probably 1.5 gallons. Yeah. So that was almost a prep fatal mistake, because obviously I'm dehydrated and I'm not giving my body the water that it needs. So it was holding. So the thing that I was trying to prevent, I was actually exacerbating more and more. So that was the post that I did, and that's where the whole cashew thing came in. Cashews are great. They're amazing. Just not 2,000 calories of it all at one sitting.
What do you think about
20 grams?
How about like cashew butter? Are you a fan? You ever have that?
Oh, yeah.
That stuff's amazing.
Oh, man. I love it, but I like the cashews better just because I like the texture and the saltiness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I usually don't crave it until I usually don't crave cashews at all until like the last 4 weeks of prep when it's really hard.
Yeah.
So normally I don't have that issue, but I was just not in a good place emotionally, and it just kind of got the best of me.
Right on. All right, I got one more here, and this one is for the professor of cereal. Look at that, we did it again.
Oh my God, is that a senior dissertation?
This is Jeremy Jason. I gotta give him another shout out because he looked fantastic.
How's it going, Jeremy?
He followed Scott's book, and he got his natural pro card just a couple weeks ago. So shout out to him.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Jeremy. That's awesome.
Yeah, he was shredded.
Absolute dice.
Okay.
I'm going to check out his profile.
All right. Cinnamon rice Chex is my jam. It's my favorite to skip load on, and it's my go-to for glycogen loading before a show. In my mind, I figured a rice-based cereal would be superior to be a superior source over wheat, oat, or corn-based cereals. Am I splitting hairs here? I just really think that rice cereals would trump over the others. What are your thoughts? Thanks, fellas.
Can I say something?
You're our guest.
Yeah, I want this.
Take it, man.
Well, first of all, I'm confused as to what skip load is. Do you guys know what that is?
Yeah.
Also known as Ken loading. How about that?
Ken-
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
It's Skip's method of skip loading, and basically,
Dieting
yeah,
and loading for a show.
yeah, where you eat for a period of time. It's a technique. That's the short answer.
But it's unique. But it's unique to Ken, to Skip. All right, got it.
The thing that's so crazy, I just got to give Ken kudos on this before you go, because that's precedes your answer, is that Ken has been using skip loading, this refeeding technique. It's a cyclical diet with periodic refeeds, like a 1-day refeed that he adjusts for literally decades now, and it works phenomenally well for almost basically all of his clients. And it's crazy because the nuances of this type of dieting are just sort of barely the science is just sort of scratching the surface. And Ken's been doing this shit for like 20 years. And it's like, ooh, does this work? Does it not work? What's it doing to leptin? What's it doing to thyroid metabolism, et cetera, et cetera? And Ken's been like perfecting this shit. And it's sort of funny. Like that's like one of the most clear-cut examples of where in the trenches stuff is just like eons ahead, literally decades ahead of what the science is starting to figure out. And Ken's got this down, man. So anyway, yes, your answer to the cereal question.
So, and just for everyone listening, what I'm about to say doesn't necessarily mean that Dr. Scott or Mcnally will agree. This is just my opinion, and honestly, I hope you guys don't agree because that makes this much more fun.
I'll try not to. Then. I'll go out of my way.
Yes, debate me, damn it. Rice versus. So I think one of the things he talked about was rice versus the wheat, the corn, and there was a third one. I forget what it is. I think he said oats or something like that. Yeah.
Yes.
Cereal, yeah.
I think the overarching concept of importance that you want to focus on is your digestion, right? So what is most easily digestible in your specific GI tract? So if rice cereal happens to be the thing that doesn't bother you at all and you feel the greatest after you eat it, then that's the thing that you eat. If it's not the rice cereal, but it's the corn-based cereal, then that's the one that you focus on. If they all digest really well, then my personal opinion is if you are in off season and a calorie surplus and your goal is just to get those calories in and hit those macros, which one you pick, I don't think really matters. If you're in a contest prep, it's probably better to stick with the rice-based cereal just because as you progress through a contest prep, you are more likely to encounter digestive issues. And typically across the board, rice-based stuff will digest a lot easier than all the other categories that you gave. So that's just my opinion on that. If you're in a calorie surplus, I think you might be I think you are splitting hairs a little bit. I don't think it matters as much, but yeah, man, digestibility, that's really the ultimate thing that matters. If you feel good after you eat it and you're getting the results that you want, stick with it. Scott, you want to debate him?
First? I don't really have anything. I mean, I could make something up and be like, actually, oats are proven to be far superior to rice. 9 out of 10 studies. Right. I got nothing. I would say
you're like an ad for Trident chewing gum, or 9 out of 4 to 5 dentists approve.
Yeah, I would say this. I would say the number one thing is, especially going into a show, is don't change anything. So that if the rice was working, then don't switch from that. But I don't really. I try to stay away in general from wheat-based products. I find I would rather just eliminate that if possible. Moving into a contest. So I would prefer, out of all that stuff, I would think it would probably digest the most easily too. If another one was oat based, that's going to be a fermentable fiber, right? And I could see potentially people having more issues with that than rice. So process of elimination, I think I also agree. So I don't have an argument, but I do have an air horn.
I don't have anything to say after the air horn. Like, that's just all my points are null and moot. There's no point in even responding.
Well,
I actually have a bunch of things to say that, but it sounds like he's been practicing with the skip loading if he's dieting down that way.
Yes.
So that's a good choice, obviously, for a glycogen load before a show. I've got study that I present in my Why You Don't Look Like a Pro presentation that looks at variability in glycemic responses on an individual basis, and they compare maltodextrin and white bread. And for some people, there's a higher glycemic response, a greater peak glucose after a standardized glucose amount for one source versus the other. It's all over the place. And sometimes the curves aren't perfect, like the glucose comes up and it comes back down. The glucose responses are just, some of them are wavy with one food source and not so with the other. So there's so much biological individuality there. It's crazy. One of the things, if you're in a jam, in terms of, pardon the pun, if you're trying to get glycogen loaded as fast as possible, you'd want high glycemic response and a high insulin index. After most of the studies, this is mainly with endurance training, with glycogen repletion, if you're really, really low, it doesn't matter, after the 6 or 8 hours, pretty much, what kind of carbs you're taking in. But when you're looking for like maybe 1 or 2 meals or rapid glycogen loading, like if not that he would probably do this, but if let's say you wanted to load up quickly right before a show, like you weighed in and you want to use cereal as one of your quick glycogen loading sources, then the one with the highest glycemic index and highest insulin index is going to be your best shot. If funny enough, look up Frosted Flakes. It's on a lot of the glycemic index lists, and it's like I
was going to say Crunch Berries.
Yeah, Crunch Berries, I don't know. But Frosted Flakes, wheat-based, it's like 65.
Huh?
And my guess is that's maybe from the high fructose corn syrup that they use to spray on there. Like you could see like the white, all that white, stuff.
Yeah, the shininess.
Part. That's a good
part.
Yeah,
I think that's high fructose corn syrup, in powdered form. So that's one thing to look at, but you have to measure it for yourself. And yeah, Derik, what you said about the gut, like holds true. Absolutely, for sure, no matter what. So like what Scott, you said, same thing about, it's funny, like cereals will say oat-based cereal, but if you look the cereal or if you dig into it, it doesn't really mean that like whatever the flake is or the piece is entirely made from oats. There's a couple, I make fun of these when I do the Cereal Gains Nation posts, is like you'll see like
say that
with
3
oat
times.
Clusters. Yeah, Cereal Gains Nation post with oat clusters, and it like contains real oats. And like if you look in there, it's like wheat flakes with these little itty bitty like oat clusters. And it's like, is that oat based? Like how much oats are actually in there?
Yeah,
so it's the last ingredient line.
Yeah, it's at the very end, So, but one thing that always pops in my head, it's kind of a totally kind of extraneous thought almost to the Western scientific thought, is that in Chinese medicine, and this makes sense that you see this in Eastern cultures, rice is in the world of food, nutritional therapy, or food as basically medicine. In Chinese medicine, rice actually tonifies the energy of your digestive system. So it's a really good choice as far as carbs. Tonifies the spleen qi in those terms.
Tonifies.
So
what does
rice,
that mean?
Spleen qi?
No, tonify.
To make stronger, to increase.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it helps. It energizes the digestive organs in Chinese medicine. So it's a really good one. If someone's having like all the symptoms of spleen qi deficiency, rice would be a food that you might have them eat.
Huh. Okay.
But eating like a lot of sweet stuff, overly sweet stuff, which is what cereal tends to be, can actually deplete your spleen in Chinese medicine. But rice is a good one. So rice cereal, where's it at? Oh, I think I put it away. I had a box of Rice Krispies right here for a little while. Because I always have stuff on hand.
Why is it right next to you on the floor?
Just in case.
Because you never know. Like, it's a worst case scenario. I want to have a box of cereal around in case I need to make a run for it,
Yeah.
So, rice is a really high glycemic food generally, so that's a really good choice. But it's so much of it comes down like that whole slide with that study is. That's why so many people have so many different experiences when they're carving up with, I got to do sweet potatoes, or I can't do sweet potatoes, or I got to use rice or pancakes, or I got to eat something really shitty, like a really, shitload style food. It's really quite amusing, because it makes total sense. The research is there substantiating that idea that people have totally different responses in terms of the glycemic response. And it's based on the food, probably their pancreas health, the microbiome plays a big role in that as well. A large, gigantic role, and that's a function of what you've been eating up until the point when they have the test meal, at least in the studies. So anyway, it's a good question, but if it ain't broke, like Ronnie said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It kind of comes down to that. So if it's working for you, yeah, buddy.
All right. Well, we are for our, yeah.
Real quick. So you mentioned the wheat thing in terms of digestibility and wanting to kind of stay away from it when you get into a contest prep. I think the reason why people have an issue with that is, so I've read a couple studies that show that many people lack the wheat receptor that is responsible for the Damn it, Scott, don't make me laugh. I was trying to be serious. We had this joke. We had this joke. We were doing an IG live, and I was talking about how much I love spaghetti, and someone and how I look, like if I have a cheat meal and I have pasta, how good I look after the cheat meal, especially if it's a post-workout meal. Yeah. And someone asked, so what was the question? Is spaghetti
it's just a spaghetti anabolic?
How effective? Right? Yeah, it's spaghetti anabolic. How effective is it at building muscle? So we came up with this whole concept and idea of the spaghetti receptor and how the reason why most people don't respond well to pasta is because they don't have a spaghetti receptor, which is only prevalent mainly in Italian people.
Yeah, that makes sense. So they gravitated toward it. That makes total sense.
So what happens if you are not Italian and you don't possess the spaghetti receptor and you eat spaghetti? What happens is there's a gremlin, an obesity gremlin that falls out of a tree and attacks you and makes you fat. So that's pretty much how that works. Watch out for the obesity gremlin.
All right. Well, we got some science in here too, apparently.
There you go. Yeah. This is the kind of science that Dave Crossland would approve of, I think. Yeah. Sometimes you guys create some crazy shit on there, which I love.
Oh, yeah.
Well, our 30-minute interview has gone about an hour long now. So thank you for hanging out for all this additional time. We appreciate it. Shout out to your sponsor. Shout out to you guys. He's sponsored by True Nutrition. You see the shirt?
True Nutrition.
Yeah. I went out of my way to not wear the shirt because I was like, I bet he's going to wear the shirt. I love that shirt, man. That's the coolest logo. Oh, yeah, what do you got there, Scott?
The Metallica theme.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my coaching brand.
That's classy. So, I like that.
Yeah, WEAPONX Athletics. So that is the I guess company, LLC, lack of better terms, for my whole team, of athletes. So
what legal entity?
What are you using from True Nutrition right now?
Oh man, I literally just used the TrueMD's GDA like right before we got on the podcast, so I could with my meal. But I would say my favorite products, right? Because I'm using like the alpha lipoic acid. I'm using the L-carnitine tablets. I'm using the L-arginine. I got the glycerol monostearate. Nice. I have the creatine. I have all that stuff. But I would say my favorite products are the powdered muscle and the True EAA Plus. So the powdered muscle, for those that are curious and want to know, it's an intra supplement. It's 35 grams of carbs and 11 grams of protein per scoop, and I usually use 2 for when I train, and then I'll add the True EAA Plus to it, which has 10 or 11 grams of essential amino acids, and it also has a performance blend. It has citrulline malate, I believe it has glutamine in it, it has beetroot powder, and a bunch of other stuff for performance, vasodilation, etc. Those are my 2 favorite products. I love the 2 of them, and they're both fruit punch, so they mix very well.
Yeah.
You do have to use a lot of water. So it'll definitely force you to stay hydrated because the powder is very dense. So if you're not using enough fluid, i.e. probably a minimum of like 40 ounces, it might like chalk up on you a little bit, but the taste is phenomenal. And I have had the greatest performance on those products, even when I was in a deficit.
That's great, man. That's cool. That's cool.
And I have the J Flex as well.
Oh yeah. I've been using that since I had torn my shoulder, which was like I can't even remember now, 8-10 months ago. It's a great product. I like that.
I actually got the J Flex because of you,
You're
Mcnally,
kidding.
because I was listening to I was listening to one of the Muscle Minds episodes a few months ago, and you were talking about how you had an injury and you had been using the J-Flex for about 2 months, and you were able to do, after those 2 months, there were a bunch of movements that you were able to do, like pressing movements that you were unable to do prior to using that product.
Yeah, I'm getting back into it, thankfully. So, yeah. And what about now? If people want to follow you, of course, everybody's
another plug. That's important. I think. Should we talk about the new WEAPONX line that True Nutrition is coming out? The Pasta Power line.
You're kidding me.
The Pasta Power. Oh my God! Here we go.
Yeah, the spaghetti fuel is going to be a carb powder that's going to come out. I think the first 2 flavors are going to be tomato basil and then oregano, something like that.
I didn't even know about this.
I know. So just,
we're gonna come out with a bar. It's just gonna be dry. Right. It's just gonna be dry uncooked spaghetti wrapped in a rectangle.
Right. Wrapped with beef jerky for the extra protein.
Yes.
Keep an eye out for those products, guys.
We are coming out with. I've been talking with the guys over at True Nutrition, and we are coming out with 3 products that are going to be WEAPONX themed. And by WEAPONX themed, I mean, like, I actually went through and customized and formulated them myself.
Hell yeah.
So that they told me they're all in production right now. So I can't say just yet, but first of many.
Nice.
They're giving me a little bit of free reign to give some ideas, which is really cool.
That's cool. I love that. I'll keep my eyes peeled for that. I'm sure everybody else will too. What about contacting you, following you? Of course, there's the Instagram. Is there anywhere else that people should go to for your coaching or anything?
So obviously, Instagram is my most active platform. So that would be the best place. That would be one of the best places to reach me. So that's at WEAPONX_IFBB Pro. Obviously, I'm on Facebook as well, which is just my name, Derik Oslan. I'm getting my YouTube back up.
Nice.
So, but I still got to produce a little bit more content before I feel comfortable really promoting that. I just started my own little podcast as well, which I put up on SoundCloud. I have a few episodes out.
Oh, cool.
I've called it the Weapon Excellence podcast.
You'll be a great host too, man, because you've got it. You got the energy, you got the personality, and all that. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I've pre-recorded a bunch of episodes. So I'm going to be putting them out slowly, probably 1 or 2 a week. What else? Oh, and then my website, wxathletics.com. If you want to go and look and see what the brand is all about, what I do from a coaching standpoint, clients, testimonials, daily blog, articles that I've written, so on and so forth.
Nice.
Oh, and I wrote a book.
You're kidding.
I was trying to compete with Scott.
What's your book?
It worked.
Actually, I think I might have a copy lying around somewhere. Anastasia's here. Hi, I love you. Would you mind grabbing my book that's in the other room so I can just flash it really quick? Even though I'm disturbing her meal right now, she's very upset with me. But I called it Muscle Building Decoded. Basically, it is about exactly what the title says. It's the basics, what I felt are the basic and foundational concepts and ideas of building muscle. I actually, one of my references is actually Dr. Scott's book. Among I have 10 or 11 other references. It's 100 pages long, roughly. And basically, I wrote it from the perspective of if I was a young guy, if I was re-beginning my bodybuilding career.
Yeah.
Thank you. Here's the book.
Nice. Wait, a little bit to the other side. We didn't quite see it.
Oh,
go right the there. Other direct. There we go. Okay.
Cool. Okay, so I hope you guys got a good view of it. So basically, I was just like, okay, if I was a young guy just starting out, again, what of all the things that I know now, what do I wish I knew back then to implement that would have propelled me forward even more and even faster had I been privy to this knowledge? And how would I have wanted it delivered to me? So that's how I wrote the book from that perspective. So it is nowhere near as dense and in-depth as Dr. Scott's Be Your Own Bodybuilding Coach book, which I have read twice now. And if you don't have that book and you're into bodybuilding, you're a complete idiot. Just saying. So best book I've ever read. Even though I just flashed my book on camera, if there was one book that you could get and never buy anything else, it is Dr. Scott's Be Your Own Bodybuilding Coach book. That thing is incredible.
Expect your spaghetti delivery tomorrow, Derik. Thanks for that.
You're welcome. But yeah, so I wrote that last year. So yeah, that's everything. I don't think there's anything else. Obviously, shout out to to the other side, True Nutrition for taking a chance with me, making me their featured athlete, and really showing some immense faith and support, and really helping me through this season to try and get to the 2021 Olympia. Like I've had a few sponsorships, and none of them have ever invested in me in the way that True Nutrition has, and shown that they actually like give a crap about me as not just as an athlete of their brand, but as a human being. They actually want to see me succeed just because they want to see me succeed. Obviously, as a side note, they benefit from that, but still, I feel like that their primary focus is we just want to see you do well.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, so it's really awesome.
Yeah, that is. Well, we appreciate your time
over there.
You what?
Derik. Discount code
What's
for
that?
Derik. Discount code.
Oh, yeah. WEAPONX is the discount code. So if you know what, the best scenario here's what you do. So you have 4 products, right? You have your powdered muscle, you have your True EAA Plus, you have your J Flex, for example, and you have your True pre-workout. So you take 2 of the products and you order them, and you use advices to support the podcast. And then you use my code WEAPONX for the other 2 products, and then you support me. Everybody wins.
You do. How about this? If you guys are watching this show and you are going to buy something with True Nutrition, which I always suggest you do, use Derik's code. He's an IFBB pro. He's got this cool connection. We need to keep that happening. So support him. I mean, support us, but this time for sure, support him, please. How's that sound?
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Yes, that's awesome. That's
Dude,
awesome.
So I'm going to put links to all your stuff, too, in the show notes. So nobody has to write this down. Just look down, guys, in the description on YouTube or whatever.
Scroll.
Yeah, just scroll. And, of course, hit the like button. Leave us a comment. Subscribe. And, stay tuned for more. Man, this has been a lot of fun. I don't even need an air horn now. We got you.
That's good.
You like that? I've been practicing.
Yeah. Right. Can you beatbox, brother? Can you do that shit too?
Don't you put him on the spot now?
I can't do it.
I'll do my Yoda.
Oh no, I can do a better Yoda impression than I can beatbox.
All right, let's hear the Yoda. I want to hear both of your Yodas.
Beatboxing I'm not going to do.
Impression good that was.
All right, guys. I'm Scott Mcnally here with Derik Oslan, Scott Stevenson. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.
See you guys.